I'm Tim Bowler, very proud to be a patron of the School Library Association. I've been given the chance to talk about three books I've read recently and particularly liked. The first book I wanted to talk about was David Almond's amazing book, Kevin and the Blackbirds. I expect some of you know it already. It's beautifully illustrated by Peter Lynch, and it tells an incredibly moving story based on an old Irish legend about a young boy called Kevin. And his parents are very poor and they can't afford to feed him. So they take him to the local monastery and ask the monks to look after him. And the monks do that. And Kevin is a lovely, joyous, free spirit of a boy. He runs around in nature and he has an incredible empathy with birds, animals, the natural world. But the monks say to him, look, Kevin, you're meant to be studying to be a monk. You can't go running around just playing with animals the whole time. You've got to go into a little cell and start studying and preparing yourself for your vocation to find God. And so he goes to this little room and he stays up there, but he's constantly yearning to be out with the wild things of the world. And one day he puts his hands out of the window and a blackbird flies into it and then flies away again. And then later a blackbird comes back and another blackbird and they start to build a nest in the hands of this boy. And without wanting to give all the story away, it's a beautiful parable of a story in a way about the miracle of life, about being part of the process of giving life and nurturing life, and then letting life go and be free. Because ultimately, chicks form in the hands of this little boy and are born and fledged and fly. And in the process of that, the monks realize that this boy is not just special, but really, like all of us, really given the gift of communing with nature if you really want to do that and being part of that. And in the end, they let him go too, when his parents come and take him away again. And they themselves are changed by this miracle. It's a beautiful story, beautifully told by David Almond and beautifully illustrated by Peter Lynch. So a wonderful book. I recommend it highly. Another book I read recently, just very recently actually, is another book with a great affinity for nature. It's by Julia Green. I love Julia's work. I particularly love her. Again, her affinity with nature. You saw it in things like To the Edge of the World or The Children of Swallow Fell. And this new book, Etty and the Midnight Pool, is another one, very much located in the north of England, where I think Julia has a particular connection. She writes about fellside and tarns and lakes and forests and beautiful things like that. And this is about a young girl called Etty, who is 11 years old, living a strange life in the forest with her grandmother. She does have a mother, but she's not in the story. Well, she is subliminally, if you like, or vicariously, if you like, because she's not there in Etty's life. But part of the mystery and part of the problem is that Etty doesn't really know where she is or why she's not there. And Etty has questions, and she's aware that in this life that she's living with grandma, who's very protective, she's not getting answers to those questions. She's getting kind of edited answers, not quite truthful answers. And in the course of her wandering, she meets a girl called Cora, another free spirit, but very different from Kevin. Cora's a little bit sinister. It's hard to know what to make of her. She seems incredibly confident and able to look after herself. And she challenges Etty to lots of things, including a particularly dangerous thing involving some subterranean caves, tunnels, which are filled with water, with pockets of air. Sort of thing no one in their right mind would want to go into without proper equipment anyway. And without giving the story away, what happens is a terrifying epiphany for Etty. She does end up in a very dangerous situation. And through that, she's changed, powerfully changed. And through that, she starts to realize that she must know the truth. And this opens up grandma, who then reveals things that Etty has always needed to know. And it's somehow through the process of meeting this dangerous other girl that Etty is healed and comes through this and out the other side and is able to make choices about her future life. And everyone in the process is changed as well, including grandma. A wonderful story, beautifully written, beautifully written. And my final choice is an old favourite of mine. And since I mentioned Cumbria, the area where Julia Green sets all her work, it's Arthur Ransom. of course, sets so many of his Swallows and Lambs and stories up in the north of England in the Lake District. But this one is not set in the Lake District. This is a book called We Didn't Mean to Go to Sea, which I read when I was 10. I always loved this book. I love all the Arthur Ranson books, but the reason why I like this one is because, in a way, I look at it now as an adult writer myself. I can see things that the author's doing that I didn't notice when I was a boy. And here I can see that this is a very direct kind of story. Whereas in the other Arthur Ranson books, most of them have a story within a story. Children are sailing on the lake, yes, but they're not children. They're explorers, they're poets. They have their own story within our story. So the man in the houseboat isn't a man writing a novel. He's a retired pirate. The local farmers are not farmers. No, they're natives. In We Didn't Mean to Go to Sea, none of that exists. It's about the Walker children only. They make friends with a young man who's got a small sailing cruiser. And through a combination of events, they end up on their own being blown out to sea from Harwich, Felixstowe, on the east coast, and out into the North Sea. And they can't get back because a storm blows up. And it's I wouldn't say a terrifying story, but it's a gripping story about a sea voyage with these poor children having to fight the elements and stay alive. And in the end, they're blown right across to Holland. And the story is about that, how they get there, how they survive, and then how they get back. And to me, that's one of Arthur Ranson's finest achievements. It's a story without kind of fictional artifice, beyond the fact that it's a fiction in the first place. But beyond that, there's no more playing at big explorers or anything. No, these are four children fighting the elements. And I think it's a terrific story. And it was great to read it again. So I hope you maybe think about reading one or maybe all three of those stories. And I hope you enjoy them. So I wish you all, well, a wonderful end of this year. And I hope that next year is also wonderful as well.